Welcome to Prep Central, New Mexico's premier high school sports show. This show is presented by Western New Mexico University. If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as on all your favorite platforms like YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription. We hope you'll consider that. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Preps Central. I am James Yodice. I'm the high school sports editor of the Albuquerque Journal. And welcome to our first high school basketball podcast of the 2024-25 season. We're going to give you a rough sketch of how the season is going to look. Before I do that, I want to give a shout out to Western New Mexico University, our sponsor. We appreciate their support of all the podcasts that I do regarding high school sports. So here's what I'm going to do. This is not going to be an extremely long podcast today. I'm going to focus primarily on Class 5A and Class 4A for boys and girls basketball. As I sit here today, it's Wednesday, December 4th. The season is underway for most everybody, and if it isn't, it will be before the end of this week. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to start with Class 5A boys basketball and Volcano Vista. So last March, Volcano Vista went out and won its third straight Class 5A title. They beat Oregon Mountain in the championship game. No other Albuquerque school had ever won three consecutive large division state titles in a row. Of course, we've seen other dynasties like Albuquerque Academy and Hope Christian at lower levels win multiple titles in a row. But nobody in the largest division had ever won three in a row until Volcano Vista went out and did it last March. So as we start this year, I went out and watched Volcano Vista in their opener last week against Albuquerque High, and they look spectacular. Oddly spectacular. It seemed like a midseason form type of game. Volcano went out and won 86-43. This team is going to be a load. There's no question about it. Look, they have two of the 5 or 6 best players in the state on the same team, starting with Kenyon Aguino, who is signed to play with Montana, and who is the 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year, and David Lunn, who's now a sophomore, 6'4", just an incredibly effective player inside. Volcano returns 4 starters, and having watched this team, they can shoot it. Man, can they shoot it. They had one quarter last week where they had 6 different players make a three-pointer in the same quarter. Just think about that. It's extremely unusual to see that over the course of 32 minutes. Volcano had 6 guys make a three in one quarter. They can shoot it. They've got size. They've got experience, and they're looking to make history. The last team to win 4 titles in a row, big school boys, was Hobbs, 1999 to 2002. And in fact, Hobbs is the only team over the last half century plus to achieve that. So what Volcano Vista is attempting to do this year is extremely rare, and they already look really motivated. So, look, Danny Brown, who is the brother of Greg Brown, the Volcano Vista coach, Danny told me a couple of weeks back, he said, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Volcano wins every one of its games by at least 20 points. And after watching them opening night myself, it would be hard to disagree with that. Volcano already looks really good, and that was just opening night. If you're going to catch a good team, you got to catch them early. You're not likely to catch them as we get into the season, into January and February and March. Once a team gets its chemistry established and their rotation set, it's hard to get them. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it early. So, but even with this Volcano team, it's hard to imagine that happening. They're going to be an overwhelming favorite every time they take the floor as long as they stay healthy. It's high school sports. Anything can happen. We all know this. Look at football. Cleveland football was an undefeated team going into the state championship game. Last year, they got whipped pretty good in the final. La Cueva was an undefeated team this year going into the final. They got beat pretty handily in the final. So nothing is for sure. But Volcano, look, they're as prohibitive a favorite as I've ever seen in my career coming into a season. Now, who, if anyone, could play with Volcano over 32 minutes under the right circumstances? Maybe you catch Volcano on an off night, a poor shooting night. Well, the team that probably is best equipped to do that happens to be Sandia. So Sandia returns all its starters. This is an athletic team. They love to shoot the three. I think they had 4 different kids break the school record for three-pointers in a single season last season. That's pretty incredible. This team likes to shoot the three. And when you play a team that likes to shoot the three that much, you catch them on a hot shooting night, even a team like Volcano could be susceptible. So I think most everybody agrees Volcano and Sandia, who played in the state championship game in 2023, look to be the 2 best teams in 5A as we start. And with Volcano having a large edge on everybody else, including Sandia. And, of course, these 2 teams will run into each other at least once during the course of the season. But who else? Who else is out there that might be able to contend, get into the last couple of games of the season? Sandia was a quarterfinalist last year. Albuquerque High, a lot of people forget, Albuquerque High got all the way to the semifinals last year before they lost to Oregon Mountain. And Albuquerque High returns a good bit of their team. Now, even though Albuquerque High got beat badly by Volcano, I wouldn't want to read too much into that. It was a first game, and Albuquerque High, I think most everyone agrees, is going to be an excellent group throughout the year. And everybody believes they're going to be top 5 caliber throughout the year. So the Bulldogs and Coach Leroy Barella, we're going to watch for them. Like I said, put aside what happened in the Volcano game. They're going to be around. And we talked about Sandia, who plays relentlessly up-tempo. In fact, as I record this podcast tonight, Sandia has a big home game tonight against Atrisco Heritage. Atrisco Heritage, who knows, with them. Another team likes to shoot it. They've got Latavius Morris back, their senior guard, their scoring machine, probably the most electrifying individual scorer in Class 5A boys basketball. The kid can fill it up from anywhere. He can get to the rack. He can make mid-range shots, and he can certainly hit the three. Tay is as much fun to watch as anybody in 5A. We're going to see if Atrisco's healthy enough to get through the year and experienced enough. They lost some experience off last year's team. Atrisco's in the same district with Albuquerque High, so those two, I think, are going to end up battling in that district. If you're talking about other districts, District 1 has won 8 of the last 9, remarkably, state championships. Las Cruces was the only other school that had a title, and that was during the pandemic year, the empty pit year of 2020. District 1, between Rio Rancho, Cleveland, Atrisco, and Volcano, they've won 8 of the last 9 state championships. It's a new-looking district. Farmington and Piedra Vista have come into this district. Atrisco Heritage moved out, went to District 5, 5A, where Albuquerque High is with Los Lunas and Rio Grande and West Mesa. So District 1 is going to look different. It's still Rio Rancho, Cleveland, Cibola, Volcano, and now also Farmington and PV. A lot of coaches believe Farmington is going to be competitive. If we're talking about teams outside the metro area, Roswell is a team a lot of coaches like. Hobbs is a team a lot of coaches like. Farmington, even though they lost their best player last season at graduation, that's a team a lot of coaches like. We'll see about Santa Fe High, which usually has a good program. We're going to see about Oregon Mountain, which lost not only its head coach in the offseason, but its 2 best players to graduation. Don't know about the Knights. I can see a little bit of a drop-off there. Los Lunas is another team. Los Lunas lost its head coach, Travis Julian, who resigned/retired at the end of the year. Jalen Holland, their best player, maybe the best player in the state, leaves Los Lunas, leaves New Mexico to play his senior year at a prep school in the Phoenix area. So Los Lunas loses their 2 most key aspects to their program. So hard to say what we're going to get from teams outside the metro area at this point. Like I said, it's only the first 4 days of December. A lot of time for teams to establish themselves. But if we're talking about inside the metro area with District 1, as we were talking about, Cleveland is only returning, I think, one of their top 6 or 7. Remy Albrecht, their sharpshooter. Cleveland's starting over with some new faces, and like a lot of teams, kids coming up in the junior varsity or kids that were on the varsity who sat on the bench and didn't get a chance to play that much. Look, they're hungry now. This is their chance. So we're going to see what goes on with Cleveland, which has been a mainstay. Same thing with La Cueva in District 2, who we'll talk about in a second. But if we're talking about District 1 and teams that could challenge Volcano, there isn't one. That's just it. There's not one. There's some good teams in this district. Rio Rancho was always competitive with Coach Wally Salata. Cleveland, even with the new faces, I'm sure Coach Zach Hall will have them prepared. Cibola is a team that a lot of coaches think is going to be maybe the most improved team in all of 5A. They're big. They've got good guard play. This is my alma mater, so I'm rooting for them to be competitive again. That would be great. But a lot of coaches believe Cibola is going to be not only much improved, but they're going to make some noise. We will see how that pans out, of course, over the next several months. Now, in District 2, Sandia clearly the favorite. No question there. Who's next? Probably El Dorado. They've got a kid that can score named Malachi Green. Coach Roy Sanchez likes this team. And when Roy says he likes a team, that's unusual. Usually he's very ambivalent with me, and I think he does that on purpose with me. He's usually very low key and doesn't play up his team that much. But he likes this group, and if he likes them, they're going to be good. La Cueva, oh boy. Look, Cam Dyer's graduating early. He's going to get started on his football career at Arizona State. Daniel Lovato, a 6'5 guard, really excellent player. He left during the offseason to go back to ABC Prep where he was. Then he came back to La Cueva. Now he's back with ABC Prep again. So they're missing those two players. La Cueva is going to be really new in a lot of places. Just from what I've heard and what I've seen, hard to imagine La Cueva having a huge impact right away. Maybe they'll grow into their roles as the season goes along. La Cueva was a state semifinalist last year, and they were leading Volcano Vista at halftime. A lot of people forget that. They played Volcano straight up for a half last year. Cam Dyer played fantastic. Volcano finally overtook them and beat them in the second half. But La Cueva, missing these athletes, look, they're not going to make a run at it this year. That's just it. It's not a criticism. They're just not equipped personnel-wise to do that. We'll see how the rest of the district shakes out. Manzano's in this district now. Santa Fe and Capital have moved over from District 5 to District 2. We're going to see what we're going to get out of those two. But Sandia clearly the favorite, and I think El Dorado next. And we talked about District 5 as well. We did some reshuffling with districts throughout all the classifications. So the football districts don't necessarily look the same as the basketball districts. Don't ask me why. It's very confusing, and it would take way too long to explain. So there you go. Volcano Vista, everybody chasing Volcano Vista. If they stay healthy and motivated, hard to imagine anybody beating them. I'll know more after I see Sandia tonight. We'll see whether Sandia has the legs and the personnel and the grit to take down Volcano. Maybe they'll see each other in the Metro tournament. Maybe they'll see each other at the state tournament. I don't know, but and offhand, I can't remember if they have a regular season game. I believe they do. So we're going to see. But Volcano, I think this is a season in which I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody to believe Volcano Vista is not going to win every game. They were an overwhelming number one unanimous choice in the first coaches poll, and there's no reason to think they won't be number one and unanimous every week this year. So that takes care of Class 5A. Class 4A, let's look at it real quick. Highland, which won state last year in overtime over Valley, and Artesia look to be, from everything, all the feedback I gained from coaches in my interviews in the preseason, those two teams seem to be clearly set apart from the rest. And Highland, honestly, is starting the year and is going to play a good chunk of the year without Jesus Licon, their big scoring guard, who scored 29 points a game last year. He was the state's leading scorer in 4A. Suffered a knee injury in late April, I was told, a serious knee injury, had surgery. They're not expecting him back minimum until probably late January. We'll see how that pans out. But Highland has 10 players back, and they've got plenty of kids that can play. And they took Sandia to overtime in the opener last week. So Highland clearly going to be a factor in 4A, whether Jesus Licon returns at 100% or not. Artesia, a big team. They got a key transfer guard from Hobbs. A lot of people like Artesia's chances. Those two seem to be driving the conversation in 4A boys. If we're talking Albuquerque metro area, Valley was in the state final last year, lost by a single point. Got hit pretty hard by graduation. They had a really good JV, though, and they got some good kids coming up that sat on the bench for the varsity. So we're going to see how Valley turns things around. Valley's always going to be competitive. Del Norte is a team that maybe is going to fly under the radar for a while, but they've got everybody back on that team. And from what I'm told, they're very much improved. So Del Norte and Coach John McIntosh might be back in the fold when we get into March. We're going to have to see. Hope Christian, another team that we can rely on to be in the playoffs. They lost quite a bit of scoring to graduation. We're going to see how Coach Jim Murphy rebuilds with this team. This is his 43rd season, which is incredible with the Huskies. Albuquerque Academy, another really good team last year. Their top 3 scorers, their top 3 players, all graduated. And they lost a couple of other key role players as well. So Academy has a new coach in Alvin Broussard, who used to coach Sandia's boys, you'll remember. So now Alvin takes over at Academy. I think this will be more of a retooling season, maybe even a rebuild a bit for the Chargers. Hard to see them having a major impact given what they have to replace. And last thing, I want to make a quick mention of Class 3A. Robertson, which lost to Navajo Prep in the state final last year. Robertson looks to be a clear favorite in Class 3A. Bosque School from Albuquerque should be pretty good. They were in the playoffs, and Sandia Prep made the state tournament as well. And I know Coach Damian Segura, who won multiple state titles with St. Pius, I know he expects Sandia Prep to be much improved this year as well. Okay, let's talk some girls basketball. Like I said, we're going to focus primarily on 5A and 4A. Sandia's girls are coming off a state championship game. They beat Volcano Vista in the final last year. Sydney Benally had 35 of Sandia's 49 points in the state championship game. She was magnificent. Sandia returns everyone. So Sandia, a clear number 1 as we start the year. Now, they played Hobbs the first Saturday of the season. This is going back almost a week and a half now. And Sandia played Hobbs. Sandia beat Hobbs 53-48 here in Albuquerque. Those two teams, a lot of coaches expect to see each other 2, maybe 3 times this year. They're both going to be in the Metro Tournament. Defending 4A state champion Kirtland Central's in the Metro Tournament this year, replacing Gallup of note. So Sandia and Hobbs could play each other, and Metros could play each other again at the state tournament. Sandia is a clear number 1. Everything is going to go through them this year. That's it. As long as they've got Audrey Wright and Hope Giddings plus Sydney Benally, their other role players like Chloe Brown, etc. They've got just a great group of kids coming back. So as their coach Lee Kettig told me, they want to stay hungry. That's the key for any state champion coming back the next season. When you're favored, as Sandia is, they've got to stay hungry. Now, Hobbs, they have got a large number of players back from a team that lost in the semifinals last season. So Hobbs is definitely going to be back in the conversation in a big way come March. You can pretty much guarantee that. One of their top players, Jayla David, I believe, is not going to be back, mostly because she's going to concentrate on volleyball. But most of their other top players are back, and Hobbs is going to be a load. So I'm interested to watch them when we get to January's Metro Tournament. What other teams can we expect to see make runs in March? Hard to say at this point. Farmington's usually pretty good. They're moving into that Volcano Vista Rio Rancho district. Farmington's been a solid program for many years. So Farmington, Mayfield, plus Hobbs, all from outside the metro area. It looks like all 3 of them are going to be pretty good. Hobbs at the top, of course. Inside the metro area, Rio Rancho. They might even be the favorite in District 1, even ahead of Volcano Vista. Rio Rancho was super young last year. They've got a tremendous freshman named Maddie Martinez. And Coach Lori Mabry really likes this group. So we'll see. I mean, Volcano Vista has ruled this district for many years. And Volcano Vista has a really good guard named Mila Espinoza back, who can run the show, and she'll be a steady influence. Of note, Volcano Vista had a loss last night to Albuquerque High. I think they lost by 2 points, 50-48, I believe. I mention that because Albuquerque High is a team that won 24 games last year. They were a 9 seed, and they had to play on the road at El Dorado, who was an 8. Lost in the first round, but they won 24 games, and they've got a good number of kids back. I saw them play La Cueva 9 days ago, and La Cueva won the game, but I actually thought Albuquerque High was the better team, oddly enough. La Cueva had some 3-pointers bounce in miraculously, and Albuquerque High missed probably half a dozen makeable shots close to the basket. But I actually thought overall Albuquerque High was the best team that night. Albuquerque High clearly going to be the best team in District 5. That's a team that can challenge in March. La Cueva, led by Jordan Dyer, wonderful player. Jordan is a double-double machine. She can score it. She can rebound it. Possibly the best athlete in 5A girls basketball. If somebody has somebody that they think is better, fire away, let me know. She's going to lead La Cueva. La Cueva is going to be really good. They're going to be back in the mix. I don't know that La Cueva can challenge Sandia in District 2 5A, but Sandia is expecting to get some competitive games against La Cueva when we get to District. In District 1, we talked about Rio Rancho. Volcano's still going to be in the mix, clearly. Lisa Villarreal is one of the state's best coaches. Volcano is always, as long as she's there, Volcano's going to be in the mix. But I do think Rio Rancho maybe opens the season as a slight favorite over Volcano in the district. That means nothing coming from me, obviously, and it means nothing on December 4th. We'll see how this plays out in January and February. Cleveland has a new coach, Stacy Pokorski, and they've got a top returning scorer, Savannah Medueno, who had a big season. So they're going to change their style a bit. They're going to play up tempo. They're hoping to get back in the mix, and then you throw Farmington and PV in there. That's going to be a really interesting district, I think. Rio Rancho's still pretty young on the whole, and we're going to see how that pans out for them. But Sandia clearly going to be the favorite in District 2. Albuquerque High clearly going to be the favorite in District 5. Las Lunas is a ranked team. I saw them last night. I think they'll be okay. Do I think they can play with Albuquerque High? Not yet. Maybe later down the road. So we're going to see how all that plays out. And, of course, Hobbs is going to be an overwhelming favorite to win its district. But teams that most interest me, Albuquerque High, Rio Rancho, La Cueva. I specifically did not mention El Dorado. Look, Bella Hines left El Dorado to go play for a new elite team, a traveling team at ABC Prep. And El Dorado graduated their second and third leading scorers, too. El Dorado's rebuilding this year. That's it. They'll be one of those teams, maybe they'll be more competitive into January and February, but I think El Dorado's going to take more lumps than they'll give out for a while, having to replace so much scoring. So we're going to see how it goes with El Dorado. Moving into 4A real quick. Gallup, clearly going to be the favorite this year, clearly. Most coaches believe they are the best team by far. One coach told me that they thought Gallup was among the best 5 teams in the state in any class, so including, Sandia, Hobbs, and that group. Kirtland Central is the defending state champion here. KC is still going to be certainly a strong challenger here. Kirtland Central beat St. Pius in the state final back in March. St. Pius and Coach Brio Rohde picked up a lot of experience playing in that game. They lost some players. They got some key players back. So I think St. Pius feels like they are equipped to make another deep run at it. I believe St. Pius and Valencia were the only 2 teams from the metro area to get as far as the quarterfinals in 4A girls basketball. And Valencia returns a good number of players led by Jaden Cordova, their guard. So I think Valencia is going to be another team to keep an eye on as we get into January and February and even into March. But Gallup clearly going to be the favorite in here. And they've left the metro tournament, which is unfortunate. I would like to have seen Gallup, Kirtland, and Hobbs plus Sandia all in the same tournament. That would have been nice. But so there we go. Just a quick sketch of the season. A lot of teams I'm hoping to watch over the next 3 months. Hopefully we'll get a lot of great basketball. The basketball podcast will return in a couple of weeks, probably on the other side of the new year, once everybody's played some games. And then we'll start jumping in with both feet, and we'll talk a lot of basketball starting the first week in January. In the meantime, thanks again to Western New Mexico University, our podcast sponsor. You can find the podcast at abqjournal.com. You can find it SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, any number of places. I thank you for watching, and listen, happy holidays to everyone, and I will see you early in 2025.